an approach. Okay. We can start.
Oh,
Yes, yes, sir.
no, just to add to that, you see when we get to the doors of the university.
Yeah.
In the
Approach. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, what would you say?
We can start. And
You are
yes,
talking-
yes.
No, just you are saying you see disability is not in.
Yes, but that the doors here with that clutch thing, it's a heavy door. So if you have sliding doors which are automated, that accommodates a person on a wheelchair, and even a person who's blind, when they get to the door, it just opens for them. So yeah, that's design. Universities that are old, like Rhodes University, this university, it's very difficult, you know, unless it's a new building like this one where you can put in a lift and stuff. All right, Alpha. We're good to go. So this ability from a position of enablement, that's how we universities that are old. We wanted as a policy to talk about what people with disabilities could do rather than what they can't do, because everybody looks at it with an apathy viewpoint. The background to our newspaper, we formed it in 2011. That's the original team right there on the top. Below, that was the then Deputy Minister of Social Development. She's still the Deputy Minister of Social Development, but there was a change. The president has got a disability unit, which plays dual roles. This lady next to her was Miss Deaf South Africa then. We formed the newspaper so that we could document profiles to show that there's ability in people that have made it, and also just positive narratives as opposed to negative narratives. That way, if you find social mainstream media focuses on the superhuman achievements of people with disabilities or the apathy, there's no in between. So in between is the normal daily life, and they say, no, every day there's something that happens with people with disabilities, hence the formation of the paper. The two gentlemen you see here in KZN, they are wheelchair users. They were doing outreaches like bursary funding for kids with disabilities. They were doing, you know, stuff. And we said, how can we replicate this so that the world beyond can understand the good things that we're doing, hence the formation of the paper. We started with 20,000 copies a month, which was sporadically distributed across the country. What we used to do is to target maybe a school, university, and send a batch of 10 so that we can thinly spread it to the important places. And our emailing list grew to 10,000, South Africa and beyond. And initially, we would get advertising from the local provincial government, and MDDA has given us twice funding. And then there was a report that was done. What was that group, Mbali? When they came to see good practices. I remember we were in a home office one day, and the government or the portfolio committee said, we'll visit you at your house. And we thought we'd get like 5 people coming to the house. 150 people picked up with cars, blue lights, everything. It was like, you know, when an important person is getting to a place, and we were like, oh my God, where are we going to put all these people? Soldiers and police were lining up the streets, and we had to sit with 6 political parties. Ndlozi was one of them. DA was there, and they were like, hey, so how do you manage? You know that you should be getting money because disability is very important. I said, yes, we need money, we need money. That was the end of it. that was the end of it. We're like, okay, all right. So yeah, that's when we formed the newspaper, 6 months later, the first conference on disability on the African soil happened in Durban. And we had a chance to sit down with Judy Newman. Judy Newman is the mother of disability rights across the world. Then she was working for the Secretary office, which was Hillary Clinton, Secretary of the State. And we sat with the Consul General, McLean and Sapo, which she's now with World Bank. She's a disability advisor. And it was also a sort of confirmation and a blessing from her, you know. It was an amazing meeting because they said, oh, I've never heard of a newspaper in these parts of the world. And you guys, you know, do this, do that. So it was like a blessing when we started. I'm going to just touch on a few of the magazines here when we were printing, the importance of some of these newspapers. This was the first albinism conference on African soil. This picture, if you understand lack of melanin, you can't be in the sun for long. Can you imagine how difficult it was to take this picture, which was also an eye-opener to understand what the needs were. You know, we take for granted sun lotion, you know, we take it for granted. And this is what I saw in action. These are the Paralympians of South Africa, the team that went to Rio, showing ability. We attended a conference by Google on assistive devices in Ghana. And this is King Otto, the king of the Ashanti people. You know, it's important in the African context where there's a lot of stigma with disability for a leader to endorse efforts against, you know, towards disability. In of these girls from different countries climbed the Tanzania, the Mount Kilimanjaro, to raise awareness on albinism. One of them was from South Africa, who happened to be a former student of ours. Casual Day, I partnered with them and introduced the ambassadorship program, because traditionally they were using Miss South Africa and celebrities from the mainstream. And I said to them, it doesn't make sense not to have somebody with a disability talking about that issue. So this was the first time they did that. TRIP is 2015. We started in 2010, where we honor 12 women with disabilities in South Africa that are in business, education, so that the kids in schools, they would understand the importance of having an idol, somebody with a disability they can identify with. This was open air school in Durban. These kids started the music project with Durban Music School, and they won 2 gold medals in China. These are the stories that we don't hear normally, but you know, with an international flair. Lucas Sitole was the first African Grand Slam champion for wheelchair tennis. He won it here in America. So these are some of the key things that we don't get to know because of how alienated disability is. We've used different keys to engage our audience. This, I think you know, you all do this. Very important too, to share. So what do we do? When we do a story, we try to share it on like 5, 6 different platforms, end to end. This is an important tool to have. We recently started a disability TV where we do events and document them and be part of that, the events. A podcast, very important, and obviously a subscribe to newsletter call for your readers. Very important in gathering databases. We have done a lot of partnerships for us to be present internationally and nationally. The tributes, I explained it earlier, Miss Deaf South Africa, which is, it culminates in, they go to the international pageant, usually in Europe, and we are there to, you know, support, bring media partnership. I once sat on the board, steering committee years back. Then they, you know, it changes all the other time. The AXA, which is the Airports Company of South Africa, used to have the largest disability conference. We were partners with them. And they stopped, like everything else, citing budget. And this is the casual ambassadorship program that we started with National Council of South Africa, National Council for the Persons with Disabilities in South Africa. In 2015, I was approached by the Department of Social Development to develop a mainstreaming book. So we went throughout to Limpopo, Gauteng, and Free State and documented, and we wrote a book, Journey Towards Inclusion, with a colleague of mine. She's on a wheelchair. She's studying for a PhD in Tokyo, South African lady. And we produced this book for JICA, which is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. Other media partnerships that we have had an opportunity, obviously with the Department of Women, Children and Persons with Disabilities, the first ever World Down Syndrome Conference in Cape Town, Cerebral Palsy Conference, Albinism Conference. The one that I need to mention, Accessibilities Travel Conference last year in Dubai, is the largest inclusive tourism platform in the world. So we partnered with them to see synergies and try to sell Africa as a destination for travelers with special needs. Then the SAB, which is the South African Breweries, have a yearly competition, which is a Disability and Social Innovation Awards, which recognizes groundbreaking disruptions in the space to aid persons with disabilities. In 2019, I was approached by a foundation that wanted to take somebody with a disability. These kids assembled the Sling 4 plane, this one, in 10 days. And they wanted to take somebody on the plane with a disability from Cape to Cairo. The key thing was the plane was going to be piloted by 6 teenagers. Unfortunately, the person we chose had a major surgery. They couldn't travel. So I had to go alone. So I didn't go on the plane. I became the project manager of it. Then I was on the ground liaising logistics. But we managed from Cape to Cairo and back again with this plane. If you see BBC News did this, and we had 4.9 million views. We had so much coverage that with American media, with Asian media, with European media, we would have BBC One Radio call for live interviews. And it was such an amazing thing to see that in Africa, we can also have disruptions that people can notice. So these are some of the partnerships that we've had in the past. Then we focus as well on training as a media organization. In 2017, we partnered with Media24, arguably the largest media company in the country, and with IIJ-AIP, where we did the online readiness to do websites. We trained over 100 publishers, and it was fortunate that they gave budget for 2 years for free hosting. And we helped a lot of media companies to come to be ready for the online thing. Also, they were doing it for the BEE score. BEE basically is where they get points for, what do you call it in the States? What do they call it in the States? The affirmative action, yeah. So you get points. Disability, youth is very, yeah, if you're young with a disability and thing, there's a high BEE score. It plays well for them here as a media company, because since 2015, we've trained 50 youth with disabilities to do basic journalism. And each year, those journalists are our contributors. We also in partnership with Frame Media, they do part of the training for this. But unfortunately, they retrenched the training department. And now this is the end of the road for us. We now need to find more of how to get other linkages. I also facilitate disability mainstreaming training for organizations and corporates, how to absorb staff with disabilities, as well as make the workers with disabilities, what is their role and what is reasonable accommodation that they can claim from corporates. In 2016, I had a friend from Berkeley, California, who used to contribute articles, Leroy Moore. So his organization, Crip Hop Nation, uses prose, hip hop, and writing. You met Leroy, Des? Yes, when he came to South Africa. We were featured in the San Francisco Bay, the HuffPost and KPFA radio on, it was called Journey to the South. In 2020, they wrote a music score for Phoenix Rising, which is a look at Paralympians. It's on Netflix, you can check it out. They wrote the music score and they won an Emmy Award for that. And the same song, they submitted it for Social Change 2023 Grammy Awards. Unfortunately, they didn't win. So these are so right now, Leroy is writing a PhD thesis based on artistic expression based on what we did in 2016 in South Africa. Another very important partnership that we forged is SAFOD. It's the Southern African Federation on Disability. We train journalism, disability concept, and WordPress to youth in those countries. You can see that's in Malawi, and we've done physical training in these countries from 2016 to 2019, before COVID. Recently, we did a UNICEF Disability Ambassadorship Program where we trained university students with disabilities in these countries on how to advocate for disability rights. So that's some of the international things that we've done as a newspaper. And future initiatives, like anybody else, I've started a speakers bureau where I have 10 profiles, high caliber Paralympians, business people with disabilities, to just do corporate talks. We're going to revisit mailing list subscription. We used to do that and we stopped at some point. We're going to be physically be involved in job placements because companies are phoning us and say, you know what, we need people with disabilities, also skills development programs, learnerships, those things. Introduce classifieds, focus more on training. The disability units network in South Africa is so robust. You know, there is 25 universities and higher education institutes. Each of them is at least 100 students with disabilities. And it's already a database that exists. So we need just to cross-link with some of them. I've worked with Rhodes University, Wits University, University of Johannesburg, Limpopo University. So we need now to start touching base with others. We are going to open a book publication soon with my colleague, Anthony, where we'll look at scripts from everybody, actually, yes. We have placed a lot of our students, like 6 of them attended the YALI. YALI is Young African Leadership Initiative, the Obama Mandela Fellowship, which takes students from South Africa or from Africa to the States for 6 weeks. Entrepreneurship, civic engagement, and something else. I've forgotten the third one. And there's also a Southern African one, which happens for students in Southern Africa. We have links to the Dada Festival, which is the Disability and Deaf Arts Festival, the largest in the world. It happens in Liverpool, and it takes 1 month. So what they do, they have this program that's amazing. If they choose you, they actually will pay you to attend and pay you to tour the UK. So we need to link thing. Obviously with CREPOP, we want to introduce an institute for creative arts. Yeah. We've been involved in civic organization networks, the inclusive education white paper, proposal. We also check on the government if they go to report to the UN on disability achievements. They just write a report and sometimes they lie. We're there to counter and say, no, this didn't happen because somebody has to check on them. I'm also engaged in the Africa Disability Alliance to have hubs across Africa. And obviously events and YouTube have a more focus on that. Some of the untold stories, 2010, this lady from Zimbabwe, Prudence Mabena, she had a group called Liana, and they were singers, they were singing. An American producer visits Zimbabwe, meets these guys and like, wow, you're such a good singer. Did a documentary, short documentary, and that documentary went to win the Academy Award, 2010 for best short. So it was best documentary short subject. They also won the Audience Award for best documentary at the Florida Film Festival and best short at the Africa World Documentary Film Festival. And Prudence won the 2018 Henry Viscardi Achievement Awards for leadership in disability space. So 2015, I put her as an ambassador of Casual Day. Casual Day is the largest disability fundraiser in the country, in South Africa. Yeah. Last but not least, this is just to cap it all.
Wat maandelikse gebeure en die ervarings van persone met gestremdhede in hul gesin bespreek. Die redaksie onder leiding van Simon Manda besef hoe belangrik dit is om verhale van mense met gestremdhede te vertel volgens hulle eie verhaal. Kom ons ontmoet Simon en sy span.
Simon Manda, ndakazvarwa kuZimbabwe. In South Africa. Ndakasvika muna 2000. In 2010, ndaita ma-events, ndaita brand management, ndaishanda ne-ladies network Mambazo. Ndakasangana nevarume vairi vakaremara vanoshandisa ma-wheelchairs, Vusindimeni naMusazulu. Vaiita ma-projects disability. And kuma-projects avo vaikurudzira nekushandisa ruzivo rwavo kuti vataure nezvedisability nema-events avaiita, vaiita ma-expos, vaiita ma-programs akafanana nekuempower youth, kupa ma-bursary. Ndakaona iri initiative ine musoro asi yaingoitwa ku-KZN, around KZN area, and kuti tisvike pachinhanho chekuti nyika yese izvizive and kunze kwenyika yeSouth Africa. Takaona zvakakodzera kuti titange pepanhau rinonzi disability.
Dumelang, lebitso la ka ke Nthabiseng Tlhaka Noqondo, ke dula Mamelodi, ke na le ngwaga e 26. I was diagnosed with a very rare nerve infection called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I'm a student. More journalism is disability advocacy for all types of disabilities. Giving back even when you have disabilities.
Ngithanda ukukhuluma intori mina zabantu aba ne-disability kakhulu because ngifila ngathi le itori abazikhulumi kakhulu endaweni i-media, so like zihlala zivela kancane kancane, zivela njengento yokuthi oh lo muntu wenza so no as very like all the time consistently sivela ngokuthi lese uThabiso achieve something I'm gonna appear logo then that's it. So kumele kube into enjalo, it should become a norm that we appear on TV all the time. That's why nje kungabi into right ukuthi you find TV shows caster abantu abangana disability to play a person with disability role, which is not fair.
The only thing that a person holds at birth and when they grow up is their story. And the story defines how they're going to live their life, whether in a positive light, kind of in a negative light. So we thought that if we are a media organization that focuses on storytelling, let there be so many narratives from different people, different angles, that will sort of encourage other people when they read those narratives and say, wow, I have a similar situation. I have the same similar circumstances. I have a similar background. If this person did it, so can I. And also just to inform as a source of awareness.
Simon en sy span gaan voort om die grense te verskuif in terme van media verteenwoordiging vir persone met gestremdhede. Gaan besoek gerus hul webwerf vir die jongste nuus by disability.co.za. Na 'n kort onderbreking gaan maak ons 'n draai.
All right, thank you. Judy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Chief. I may have missed it, and I do apologize. I was also taking photos of you, so I was multitasking.
Okay.
May I just find out from you, your passion for disability? Where is it coming from? I may have missed it. You probably covered it as well. Because I'm a director of Dream House Workshop for the Blind and Disabled in Pretoria. So it's quite a massive organization. We're trying to fill a position now for an MD, and that's the kind of question we ask them. As to why are they passionate about working with people with disabilities? Perhaps it's something that you have, or someone that has. Can you tell us a little bit more of your story behind that?
I think like most of us, we grew up in trying circumstances. Most of us, when I say most of us in our age group in Africa, you know what I'm talking about. And in community, you always find persons with disabilities, and you say, I'm full on, and then there's somebody who almost needs help just to get by in terms of movement, just engagement and so on. How disadvantaged can you be? And from then I challenge myself. I would like, if I ever have to get a platform where I can be involved in just making somebody be included in society. And you find that it's only inclusion that if you pave the bridge, that person can act beyond. I don't have time. There's about 20 profiles that I can come up with that we've seen them, like doing amazing stuff because of just being given a platform. So that's where it comes from. Yeah. I thought
interviewing for the MD position.
Sounds
like
it.
Oh, it's vacant.
Oh, there's, you're good.
I was just going to ask a follow-up. I mean, I should know this, but what is the number of disabilities and who are your main groups?
The prevalence of disability is anything from 7 to 12%, depending on the country. And there was this belief that Africa has got the highest prevalence. But of late, we're seeing that the first world countries have actually a higher prevalence. But this is due to the old age. If you live long enough, you get a disability of some form. And the first world countries have people that live to the older age. And then you find them needing, wheelchairs, needing, glasses. So they high numbers in first world because of that fact. So 7 to 12%, depending just on the geographical location of where you, yeah. Of where, oh, our readers is anyone in society, especially the families and people with disabilities, then the corporates. In South Africa, I mentioned that the university has got disability units. And each of those kids is gold to a corporate. Because one, you've got a good thing. That's how you find that most of them have got bursaries. They're taken at entry and companies pay for them. When they get out of that school system, they absorb them for their numbers. So it's a very lucrative approach for them. So corporates need to understand the disability spectrum so that they can absorb for their BEE points, for whatever the reason they might have into their workforce.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut off questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Baba. Thank you.
Amazing things, man.
Inside. Sanchez. Yeah. Oh yeah, the one that you don't send. Show bed. Yes, it's all fine. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Should I send the video separately? Do you want the video? In a folder, ne? Yeah.
People are listening to you shouting. I know. Attach this to you.
And it has today's date. Can I type out in the search so that it's quicker?
Yeah, I'm just expanding.
I'm gonna put this on while he does it. Yes, man.
Thank you. Why? But oh, there you go.
22 megabytes. I'm gonna have to make that smaller to share.
Nah, that's fine. And I try to compress it on my thing, but I don't know. I think what I should have done, because it wasn't this long when I just adapted our business.
It's images and
It's images that I should have, when I was actually dropping them, I should have minimized the size.
you can do that pretty quickly in the PDF editor, like an Acrobat or something like that. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
We're downloading it right now.
And then I'm thinking I need to. I don't say it for just for. After I get back home. No. I mustn't.
No, it has it.
I'm thinking, imagine. I wasn't taking it, but we need it.
No, but in the meantime, what you can do,
That's for the sake of.
because second,
Ready.
She's ready. Are you ready?
you guys,
You want
no, no. Oh wow, oh wow, guys. No, next that.
Are you recording? You recording. Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, guys. All right, so we can move on to the next slide, Bill. Our company group is Likhanyile, and we trade as Likhanyile Tutoring and Media. So I'll just tell you a little bit about us. The slide that you were told this morning is important. So yeah, we trade as Likhanyile Tutoring and Media. We really describe ourselves as a boutique media group based in Durban. The company was launched in 2014. And in one word, we sell writing, or in one sentence, we sell writing as a commodity. So our company has publishing, corporate comms, and a tutoring divisions. And under publishing, we run 2 Zulu online publications, namely Umbele, which has a URL. It's on the website. It's a business publication, strictly financial publication, as well as Umkhanyisi, which is also a Zulu medium education and careers publication. I'll tell you more about the publications in the subsequent slide. And then in the corporate comms unit, we offer writing, translating, transcribing, publicity, editing, proofreading, and book publishing services. This is for clients across the spectrum. In fact, this unit funds the journalism. But the journalism, what it has now done is that it pulls in the clients so that this unit continues to generate money, because journalism is out there, it's in the public. No, we didn't think about it like that. When we started it, we were not as smart as that. Basically, what had happened when we started, and I was not in the company, I was still employed by Independent Newspapers, which is one of the largest media group in our country, to avoid conflict of interest, because I was part of senior management for their Zulu publication. We had these ideas for niche Zulu publications because the company is family owned. It was started by my husband, who's also a journalist, but we figured that starting the publications, though I was privy to the company strategy and knew that they had no intentions, none whatsoever, of venturing into this space, but we felt that it would create conflict of interest. So we backed off altogether from publishing so that I could focus, because it also would have been a question of, if I'm sitting down with an MD from Boxer, one of the biggest retailers in our country, do I speak on behalf of my employer, which would have been the person who would have actually opened the door and access for me to that MD, or do I speak on behalf of my family? So to avoid that altogether, we just stayed away from publishing until I joined the company in 2020. We can continue, thanks. So this is our why. This is our vision: to make our clients and audiences shine by providing a world-class and professional service. Our mission is to be a one-stop shop content hub for any content generated in English and Zulu. And these are the values under which we try and operate. Sometimes, yes, we make mistakes, but we try by all means. And the conflict of interest, for example, that we felt that we probably would have had to deal with was also, us avoiding that was underpinned by this. And we think so far so good. It has served us well. Thank you. We can continue. All right, so this is Manumbele. This is the flagship title. It's a daily publication. So we cover SMMEs, agriculture, personal finance, technology, and labor. We tell our stories through text and audio. So we have a podcast at the moment. It is weekly. It's a legal podcast. So instead of us sitting writing legal stories, what we try and do is we do it in a 5-7 minute podcast with an attorney. It could be anything. For example, because May in South Africa is Labor Month, so we've been revisiting issues of UIF, talking about minimum wage, talking about injury on duty. We do it in a podcast. So that's what that does. These are the people that we target: entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, low income earners, and consumers. And we launched in September 2020. And no, it was not really because we were brave or anything. It was really, excuse me, circumstances that forced us. But I guess life will also, push you to where you are meant to be eventually, because as I mentioned, we had identified gaps in the industry. When COVID hit, my former employer was the very first media company in our country to implement salary cuts. And these salary cuts were staggered depending on which level. So as an editor then, I took a 45% salary cut. So we figured whatever cushion that the payslip had provided, because it was also a financial decision to say that, one of us should continue to keep that payslip, and my payslip was pretty good until COVID. And so when payments were late for businesses or it was dry or whatever, we had that cushion. But with 45% of that salary gone before tax, you know, COVID eroded that security. And so we figured, you know, there's actually no worse time or better time to try and do some of the things that we wanted to do. And though we were operating as news organizations because we were classified as essential, but it was difficult to distribute the paper. But a website was still something that people were going. Of course, at that time, people were looking more for content around COVID, but there was also an appreciation when we launched for content which was not all doom and gloom. So we launched on the 16th of September, I remember, and I remember very well that our very first national TV interview was a few days later on the 24th, that Heritage Day, 24th of September. We were on ENCA with Celine Bedet for like almost 20 minutes. Oh, wow. So we got some really nice reception. But you will see, those of you who get online, that it's been almost 3 years, and these are the number of visitors that we've had. And 50,000 looks good, but you know, digital, it's pretty low, you know. I had a conversation with Paula the other day, and she said to me, oh, but remember, you are niche. So, you know, and I guess we take some comfort from that, but I do come from an environment where I led a newspaper which at some point had like 2 million unique browsers. But I also do remember that, of course, it was within a large organization that had marketing and you know. There is a platform which is called IIJ-AIP. It's owned by one of the telecoms in our country. So they have this super app idea. They have gaming and they also offer a platform to content producers. So they also have news channels, and we retain our copyright, but the platform is theirs and they do the marketing. So we have a pretty good following there. And yeah, and then this is the radio slot, which we secured in April. Initially, it was going to be 10 minutes, but within 2 weeks, they increased it to 20 minutes. So we're happy. It's a good brand. These two, IIJ-AIP and radio, it's really more brand presence, brand visibility. And I think when I think it was Andy Alexander, and there've been other speakers who've spoken about being in it for the long haul, or I can't remember the phrase that they use. I think that is part of that. It's not just, you know, I know that the money, cash, that is, eventually will come from some of these things. But I already, you could say that though it's not in the bank, but there is money, because I can tell you, we do not have a budget to advertise on radio 4 days a week on a regional radio station that has more than 1 million listeners. So, you know, when you take a long look, you look at those things as well. Don't just have conversations with people who will say, here's money or hard cash. So we try and take that approach. We distribute also through the oldest Zulu newspaper, Ilanga, which is currently run by one of my former bosses. In fact, he's also my champion and mentor. So, and they pay for our fee, but we retain the copyright. Rightly or wrongly, maybe it's a pride thing, but one of the decisions that we have made, we do not have a conversation with anyone who wants us to give up copyright. It does not matter how much you may be offering us. We do not have that conversation. One of the things that we have spent money on is on an IP lawyer, right from the beginning. So you cannot touch any of this. No one can touch it. No matter where they are in the world, you can't touch it. So we don't have conversations with people who want copyright. So Ilanga pays us for our fee, but they credit us and we retain the copyright. And they know that they don't have exclusive rights. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is me claiming this. I'll claim it that this is the cool stuff. I don't know if you can see it properly, but we try and do the cool stuff. So these are digital posts. So one of the things that we do to try and spread our resources, because Mele is a daily publication, but we don't try and be everything to everyone. That's one. But we've also, even within that financial space, we've segmented our content. So on Mondays, we have this, this is an executive profile. This is your very higher echelons of business executives. This is our auditor general in the country. So those are the kind of people that we get on Mondays, and we have an SMME profiles, but we also then have a digital poster. We circulate the stuff. It's on our website, but we also circulate it via WhatsApp. We define financial terms in Zulu. So we are actually working on a project. We're bringing out a book, a black little book, dictionary type with these financial terms that someone is willing to sponsor. So that's going to be nice. This is what this look like. This is what these terms now look like. And I'm excited. These ones are now being produced by my eldest daughter. So she wants to be in politics, but we're still saying, just get an idea of what we're doing in case you change your mind, you know? So this is the budget. Like, we summarize some of the stuff of the budget, the national budget. And it really looks cooler than what it looks like, guys, here. I can move on, Bill. So this is, we actually launched this while I was still employed, but not in the current format. So we launched it as a YouTube channel, the education publication. One of the things that we are very passionate about is education and access. So we have in our church hosted career guidance seminars for years. And we've also built libraries. When I say built libraries, not brick and mortar, but we've collected books and bought books. We started with our Sunday school and we moved to churches around, I believe in books and reading and. So that's what, but as the years proceeded, we realized that we were being restricted within, hosting physical events can be restricting, and it was before COVID. So we then, at the beginning of 2020, decided to launch a YouTube channel. And we did that in the week that in our country, we released the matric results. And what we did was we brought in an education expert and we unpacked, we had a 20-minute conversation just analyzing the matric results. And it's a really cool video. You guys must, I guess I should have had a YouTube link here, but we did that. And the idea though with Umkhanyisi, as I say, it's an education and careers, it's a career guidance now in a story format. So after that video, what we'll then do is we'll feature professionals from across sectors. We'll just be 5 minutes, talk to you. So if we featured one of you guys as a journalist, just talk to us. What is journalism? What are the work, job opportunities? What high school subjects did you do? And what did you study after matric and. But we then moved to a website, converted it to a website because we were struggling to maintain the quality of the YouTube channel. Because, you speak to the guys who are more tech savvy than I am. I want to say younger guys, but guys, I still want to say there's Des and then this guy says, I'm young. But you speak to younger guys, they'll say that, oh no, you can do this with your phone. But, when we look at some of the videos compared to the videos that were produced with proper equipment, we felt that we were compromising the brand. So we said, what we know best is text. We converted it to a website, but believe it or not, our experience, I don't know if being niche also has something to do with it. We found that the younger guys did not want to really click. So we kept it as a website for a year, but it just, granted, also, we were not paying attention to it as well as we're with the business publication because we also do not have resources, but we just felt they were not clicking. So at the beginning of this year, we then changed it into the current format, which is a digital format PDF that we distribute via WhatsApp and email, and it's just doing incredibly well. And the ads and everyone's just loving it. So this is how we distribute through the groups, as I mentioned as well earlier. And these are roughly the people that it gets to, and this number is growing. So quintile 1 to 3 for your benefit bill is the schools which, well, they're government owned, but it's also schools with for your lower income to mid income. Yeah, but yes, they are free schools. So yeah, you can go move on to the next slide. So these are some of our milestones. I'm talking about the group now as a whole. So it is launching the publications. We consider a huge thing. Securing some blue chip clients, and also publicity events. So, you know, in our country, and I think as anywhere in the world, conferences, which Simon was also referring to, are huge. And we have identified, we've spoken to some of the people that we know who run these conferences. And often they do bring the events, but newsrooms don't have resources to cover these events. No one has time to sit at the ICC for 3 days listening to 20,000 speakers. And you know, once you've written once on the first day of the plenary session. So we've said to people, you know, we can help you do that. Some of them do not even necessarily want to be in mainstream media. They just want conference magazines produced on the day or newsletters or some. So we do that. It's one of the things that really help us. And you know, we were one of the media sponsors at the Africa Tech Festival last year. And of course, guys, I've got a book coming out in July. Please buy, please buy, please buy. Yeah. So, okay, we can move on. Almost done. So these are some of the highlights. This is me speaking. This was this was earlier this month at journalism school, World Press Freedom Day. I moderated a panel. This was Frey thing. Your logo is missing there as my face is. So these things help though, guys, to just keep the brand, because then people are talking about the brand and it opens other doors. You know, people get to know what you're doing when they're introducing you, and then people reach out. So yeah, we can move on. Yeah, this is more highlights. And when I say broaden your horizons here, I really mean, so after the Africa Tech Festival, because I moderated a panel, one of the publications in Durban, which is an English publication, asked me to just do a thing writing about that panel, the conversation. So I did that. And, you know, it's us speaking to a different audience who get to know about us. So one of the things that we've done with Umbele, because we are mindful of businesses that were launched during COVID, we've produced an annual magazine, which we call Osbindikiti. These are in English, it's the daring ones. So this is a magazine that focuses on the green shoots of COVID-19. So businesses that launched in COVID-19, and we publish it through issue.com in March to coincide with the lockdown date or anniversary. But last year we also did a Women's Month thing, and it was really well received and had a lot of support as well. And this is a guy who runs an IT varsity, and he asked me to come in and be a guest. And so I take up opportunities like this, because though it's not necessarily your immediate audience, but it's just getting the brand out there. Yeah. Yeah, guys, the joke, this is me saying this, by the way, it would be in quotes. So yeah, so last year, this organization put together a book for Women's Month and for different sectors, and under the media category, they said I'm also one of the queens of excellence. So they profiled us, and that was us. PowerPoint, guys, I was hoping to show you how regal I looked with my outfits, but you can't really see. This is my book. This is the book that I've written. And this is Ohio, guys. This is the highlight. So I'm already featuring that. Yeah, but I think, you know, because we are small operations, we are the business as much as our products are the business. So that's why I say this. But I was able to phrase it because I remembered what somebody from an angels investors business forum said, that as angel investors, they care more about the jockey than about the horse. And they're coming into Durban in November, you guys. Prepare your peaches, I've told you. All right, we can move on. I think we're almost done. Okay, with all of that though, there are challenges, and I'm trying to summarize them here. That, you know, we are in an environment where connectivity and access is still seen largely as a luxury than a basic need, and it is expensive. So all the issues that we talk about here, there's also infrastructure. We are in a country, for example, where even a radio signal in some areas is poor, never mind internet. And we've been talking about this a lot, working in the business more than working on the business, which I think is our challenge. But we've also heard that colleagues, this parts of the world, also face this challenge. Being self-funded, everything, we have never had a single grant, a single investor. It's been our money, and we've even stolen from our future because part of our retirements have gone here. So, you know, and being fully family owned can also have its challenges, guys. I mean, imagine when I was employed, if my boss pissed me off, I had my husband to go and bitch about my boss. Excuse my language. Oh, okay. But but now, if that person who has pissed me off is my husband, and it's on a serious note, it was a huge adjustment in the beginning for us to work together, to the point that, you know, we were almost on a brink of, is it the business or is it the marriage that you save? And family had to get involved because, and it was nothing really, it was just he had been working on his own for 6 years. I mean, I was there in the background, but I'd come from a large environment as well, where there was a news editor, there was a chief sub, and these were the people, the head of departments, who reported to me. And all of a sudden, you're like, you have to deal with, you know, I think it was his space. And sometimes even if you're angry at him, you still have to talk about work. So it's a huge challenge, which you may underestimate, but it can collapse your business. So yeah, these are things. And of course, I always also make another crude example that as things stand now, we live with, for example, my 85-year mother-in-law. If she were to die, which I mean, could happen any moment because of her age, if nothing else, we're looking at probably 2 weeks where we would not be able to operate as things stand now, which is a huge threat to our business. So yeah, these are things that we do think about, but yeah, hopefully we'll find solutions. I think we can move on to the next one. I think it's the last slide. Okay, these are some of the past and present clients. I'm not really gonna talk too much about that. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, move on. Okay, this is Langa. This is what is done. And you can move on, Bill. This is me. And yeah, guys, you can go into LinkedIn and read the profiles. I think that's it. I think the last slide, thank you.
We have time for one question on air. You choose.
Oh,
Slim Dealing
there are a lot of
chooses.
hands.
No, I only saw Bali's head. I mean, not taking Des. Des is looking at me like he wants to ask a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
I'll ask my boss.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee, for the presentation. And I must also just say welcome to you because you've just joined the AIP recently. And I'm sure the welcome has been good. We've served you well.
Yes,
we've looked
I'm in
after you.
America.
Of course, fortunate for you. But I just want to find out from you, how has the transition been? I mean, you've explained the challenges, but especially coming from a sector where you were earning a salary comfortably, and now you have to scrape just like all of us. And what lesson have you learned about that, which is keeping you standing in this sector?
Okay. So I think there are a few things. The first thing is that I always say to people that I do not think, of course, you know, based on my religious convictions, I think God's plan always prevails. But that aside, I would not have left my job, even with that 45% salary cut, if there was not an already established business that I believed in. So it helped that the business was already there. Though, yes, it also took a hit during COVID, but it was already there. And I also could see that Langa had done what he could as a one-man person, and for it to move to the next level, just like what we've kind of reached our ceiling as a two-man band now. And, you know, for us to move to the next level, something's got to give as well. And that's why we've even had conversations. And in fact, we are busy preparing an investor pitch, not for those people, just we are on our own preparing an investor pitch, because we know that on our own, this is it as things stand. So that was one. But two, honestly, this was also me trying to remain within the newsroom, because I would literally go nuts if I did not do journalism. And I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I believed that based on where things were going in commercial media, versus what I believed we could do because of the gap. Because, I mean, we are in a country where 23% of the nation speaks Zulu. And there are literally, yes, we have our publications, but we have not made much of a dent in the industry. The industry is still dominated by the publication that I used to edit, as well as Ilanga, which we now supply copy to as well for a fee. But we are talking about a country where 23% of the population speaks Zulu. And, you know, when it comes to that market, we have not even scratched the surface. If I think about how big politics are, and I think about within the ruling party, the ANC, how much of an influence KwaZulu-Natal always has, whether the ANC has to choose its president or even where the elections go nationally, to think that there is not a single political publication which is in Zulu. I just, you know, during COVID, I'm still amazed that, in fact, it's one of the things that I would like to do. I'm still amazed that we do not have a health publication in Zulu. When I think about just, it's one of the questions that I wanted to ask. If, you know, disability does that kind of stuff where yes, you talk about achievements, but you talk about the health, how to look after people, how to identify symptoms. I will not go into some of the experiences that a recent experience that we've had as a family, but how just a visit to an optometry helped us identify something that could have been so crippling had it been missed. And sometimes people become disabled because, you know, this has happened. In fact, I'm told as a child, I would have been blind had my grandmother not been a nurse. So they were able to identify eye problems with me very early on because my grandmother was a nurse. So it's a market, I just think the market is huge. So, but it is, I breathe, live, eat journalism. So this is it. That's what keeps me going. I would rather be frustrated in the newsroom than anywhere else. You know, but I also, as I said, it helps that we have the other services, and journalism helps us. There was a time I was the type of journalist who was not interested in hearing anything about PR and publicity. It's like that kind of stuff must be done by the people. But I now understand how you can use it to complement what you do. Of course, in an ideal world, though, you should separate it, and we try. So I deal with more the the journalism stuff. I mean, one of the things that frustrates Langa is the title that I chose, because he said, I don't know, I should maybe be CEO or whatever, because in essence, that's what I do. But I said, no, I wanted to have a journalism. So I'm head of digital publications so that it can be clear that I do the journalism. So he focuses more on the comm stuff, the corporate comms, because we try and have a distinction. So that has helped. Look, in an ideal world, I would have become self-employed with less debt than I had, because then I would have had more money. But I think, those kind of things you can always negotiate. God, honestly, what keeps me going is just my passion for the industry and telling the stories. I'm glad that I never have to worry when parents are queuing at 4 a.m. because of Prime, or when Umampinja has died because I do not work for Isolezo anymore. I only bloody care about the Reserve Bank governor raising interest rates by 50 basis points. And that's what I like to care about. And making everyone understand how it impacts us, and ensuring that it doesn't remain a preserve for the elite, because that's what financial journalism has been. Anyway.
Thank you. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Please hold it.
Here's your mic. Thank you.
Mr. Rachel.
Oh, working with Paula.
No, not just, but just because it's all the eggs in one basket.
No.
So basically, we have rules. Our maid at the shoot wants to always break them. So one rule is that after 7 p.m. we're not allowed to talk about it.
I'm trying to introduce that.
Oh, you're good. Unless it's a critical thing. But if it's just general day and that night. And then at 5 o'clock on Friday, you can't carry on talking about work until Monday, 6 a.m.
So
Also
even a
difficult.
weekend.
No, when she starts, I'm like, I pretend I'm listening. What's our relationship with them? Thirdly, when in front of other people, when we have dispute, we cannot address the problem. We have to go somewhere else because it damages the. But I don't know what rules you put. Something like that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm getting calmer, so that helps. But it helps that Langa is much calmer. Well, he's much older than me as well. So that helps that he's quite chill. But he still gets a bit, I think, panicky. I switch off.
No, I just flagged it now because we
I've
spoke about
learned,
it.
like
I said
on
to you,
Saturdays,
now I
unless,
see what's going on.
if it concerns the kid. or
But I
some
put you in a
topic,
difficult
you know,
position now as well.
I
No, but it's-
I
No,
don't
but
go
let me
anywhere,
flag.
besides the fact that I need to rest, because you don't really, I stay at home and I'm not available. Like, I don't even do that girlfriend stuff. Unless it's a friend who lives in another province and they're in Durban for that weekend, then it's,
Yeah, but I think you've got to have downtime, which is strict.
Mm.
So when you work.
yeah, so but the mind, because we've got a daily publication, you can't help from
Fair enough.
Sunday, you think, oh God, okay, Monday, are we ready? But but in the beginning, there's we almost divorced.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult. I'm with you. And because it's her baby, she always wants to talk about it. And because he was there first, he always wants to talk.
That's the end of one this week.